Jared Goff had this great year, but we do know his contract number and all that. Is there a scenario where you could see a young quarterback selected by the Detroit Lions with those first 2 picks?
Yeah, it just has to make sense. Obviously we like Jared. He's our starter, but, we don't have a lot behind him. And so we're kind of sliding into home plate at the very end off a training camp, trying to find a backup quarterback and able to get Nate Sudfeld and did a nice job for us. But, we've had these open, transparent conversations about, we're happy with Jared. He's our starter, but, we need to add some pieces in that room overall. So whether it's in, free agency or, in the draft, we just got to get somebody to continue to develop.
We're back, Morning Woodward Show. Jeff Iafrate hosting for today alongside me, Sam Stick Day. And you heard Brad's comments there. And I think he answered that exactly how he should have. I don't think there's much to overreact to. You have the 6th overall pick. You don't want to tell teams, yeah, we're not taking a quarterback. And you don't want to tell teams, we are taking a quarterback. So you're kind of just saying, we have to see. We're going to take the best football player. I think that's the right way to respond because there's still teams behind the Lions that need a quarterback stick. So even if they don't, you have to say that.
You know what I love about you, Jeff? Is you use your brain. You heard that and you processed it all right, this GM isn't saying we need a quarterback like some idiots that I know that work at this network. I love you, Easy.
The Easy and Stick. I love this.
Dude, Easy is just so hell-bent on proving himself right sometimes. He hears what he wants to hear and extrapolates information. They talked about taking a quarterback. It's well, yeah, first of all, he was asked about taking a quarterback. So, of course, he's talking about taking a quarterback. And what does a GM do before the draft? Do they lay their cards on the table and tell you what they're going to do?
Not good GMs.
Yeah, no, this isn't Bob Quinn who said, okay, we're not taking Tua. We're not taking a quarterback. This is Brad Holmes, master manipulator of other people's GM's minds, and he was non-committal each way. The one thing that stood out to me, if I'm going to cherry pick the information I want to out of that comment, is he brought up backup, insulating the backup position. He literally said, we didn't have any backups. We need to look at that. That's Brad Holmes' mindset. I'm taking away from that. They're not looking for a starter. They're looking for a backup. And whether that be in the 1st round, whether that be in the 4th round, they're still going to try to make this team better. And what's a GM's job?
Make the team better.
Oh, my God.
That is.
So, wait, you're telling me that Brad Holmes isn't committing, so he's not playing his cards so the rest of the world knows what he wants to do, and he's still going to try to make the team better?
And that's what I love about Brad, too, the transparency. That's what I appreciate. He's not going to come out and say, yeah, Jared's our guy for the next 5 years, 10 years. He's pretty honest. He keeps things, year to year on a year-to-year basis, and that's something I respect out of Brad. When you look at that comment, and they had multiple comments, what it tells me is they need a backup. But backup to me doesn't always mean, Nate Sudfeld. It could mean, and I'm just throwing this out there, the Chiefs had a backup behind Alex Smith when they drafted one for a little bit. Yeah. And then he became their starter, Patrick Mahomes. So
I'm so sick of hearing
I'm
that.
Not saying.
Honestly, Jeff, I love you, and I just complimented you on using your brain.
I'm just saying.
But everybody who says, "Why don't you just go get a Patrick Mahomes?" The Chiefs did it. It's
I'm not saying.
If it was that easy, every team would have done that by now. You can't just go get a Patrick Mahomes. And there isn't an Evan Patrick Mahomes in this draft.
Let me give you another example. The Eagles. They drafted a backup in the 2nd round, Jalen Hurts, who was the backup. Now they're in the Super Bowl the next year. So taking what he's saying, it could go either way. That's why I don't – if people want to run with it and say he's taking a quarterback in the 1st round, go ahead.
He's not.
If you want to go with he's taking a quarterback later in the draft, go with it.
He's not.
You don't think he'll take a quarterback at all?
No. You heard him, in the draft or free agency. He didn't specify that they're drafting a quarterback. He said draft or free agency.
Well, he's not going to say draft.
Exactly.
He's going to say draft or free agency. So
anybody that thinks they learned something from that conversation and it's proven their point that he's going to draft a quarterback, you're delusional. You're out of your mind delusional. He played his cards perfectly. Middle of the lane. Yes, we want to insulate that backup position, whether it's going to be through the draft or it's going to be through free agency. How does that give you any hint of what his next move is going to be at that quarterback position? How?
No, and you really don't know. That's what I love and how he phrased it too. Brandon Katz says Hurts without the Eagles' elite offensive line and 2 Pro Bowl receivers is nothing. That's not even the point I was making. The point is you have Jalen Hurts on a second-round deal. That's why you're able to have all that talent. And if he's playing at a high level like he did this year in the MVP conversation, you're going to be all right.
But here's the deal. The 2 examples that you gave me with Jalen Hurts and the Kansas City Chiefs, those were complete teams before they added their quarterback.
True.
Are the Detroit Lions a complete team yet?
They're getting there. They're not.
So that's a no.
They're not fully complete, but you get some corners, you get another linebacker.
They're complete on one side of the ball. They have a complete offense.
On the side that a quarterback will be playing.
Right, and they're already complete there. So why are we addressing that?
There it is again.
that's what I'm saying.
There it is again.
They're a 50% complete team at this point. The defense was legendarily horrible the first 7 games of the season. The offense was productive throughout the entire year, finished top 5. Mm-hmm. So until you have that roster in place to where you have the luxury of getting a Hurst in the second round, where you have the luxury of being like, all right, we don't really need this first-round pick this year. Let's spend it on our future quarterback. That's what I want the Lions to get to, not putting the cart before the horse, drafting a quarterback before you have a team.
And I get that because the 49ers, they drafted Trey Lance when they had their team. So
correct.
There's a part of that, but also you look at the Lions' perspective, you have the 6th pick, and we kind of talked about this yesterday. If you're confident enough to find your franchise quarterback next year when we assume they'll win a lot of games, or the next year when we assume they'll win a lot of games, good luck. And again, I bring up Jalen Hurts. Yes, it's possible. You can find guys, but it's not the most common thing. Typically, you want to draft a quarterback top 10. That's the range you're looking at your franchise quarterback. This year, they have a top 10 pick. So that's why I'm not saying here pounding my hand or pounding my fist, draft a quarterback. But I'm also not saying there's no way they won't draft a quarterback because you have a 6th pick. If someone's there, Brad's going to at least think about it, and he didn't mention the word develop in there. It could mean develop a backup, to your point, but it also means...
You mentioned Nate Sudfeld, too, came in and did a good job.
Nate Sudfeld.
Listen, that's who the backup was last year, and if that's where they're looking to improve, pretty easy to improve over a Nate Sudfeld.
And Philip C. says Cooper Rush. That's a good point. Cooper Rush, backup. He won some games over in Dallas. I didn't even know. Cooper Rush, Central Michigan product, by the way. Came out of nowhere. Won some games for Dallas. But that, to your point, complete roster.
Well, and to all the Goff haters who say, well, Goff's only a system quarterback. Goff's only doing it because of Ben Johnson. Goff's only doing it because of Dan Campbell. It's like, okay, well, if it's just a system thing, and now we're talking kind of San Francisco 49ers-ish, then who cares? Bring in anybody. Bring in a Brock Purdy, and he's going to be able to run it. So don't feed me this both ways, that Goff isn't a good quarterback and it's only a system thing. Well, if that's the case, then why are you spending a 6th-round pick on a quarterback if it's a system thing? Why waste that asset if it's a system thing?
Yeah, and again, if Jared goes down, your season's essentially over. So I don't think the backup thing, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter too much unless you have, Brock Purdy, to your point, or someone, like Cooper Rush, who you can at least trust to come in and win some games for you.
Bring in Gardner Minshew as our backup, and I'll be a happy man.
Well, even Gardner Minshew was like 1-2 for the Eagles, I believe, when he was. And that's a complete team, but
Taylor Heineke, you can play those games, but what does that do for your franchise? You're not going to win a championship with Taylor Heineke. You're not.
Right. True.
You're not going to win a championship with Gardner Minshew. And unless you're making championship moves, you don't throw out a guy that is the 2nd best quarterback in the NFC.
Well, okay,
stupid.
Hold on. Let's run that, because I do believe he's the 2nd quarterback in the NFC. I do believe that. But a lot of that has to do with just the quarterback field in the NFC as well. Like, if you put him in the AFC, he's probably 8th.
Like my old English teacher used to tell me, you don't have to be smart, you just have to be smarter than everybody in this room.
And the room being the NFC. So yeah. And that's why I love Brad and how he's non-committal. And that's not just the quarterback position, that's every position, because Brad gets it. Like this is a year-to-year business. You see Jared Goff, we praise him. He played extremely well down the stretch this year. 15 touchdowns, 0 interceptions down the stretch.
He's played extremely well since he put on a Lions uniform.
Well,
he has.
You said the entire tenure of the line, he's played exceptional.
Yeah. Better than anticipated for 99% of people.
There's
okay. The first year, right? First, I'm sure that's where you're going to go, right? His first year wasn't
earlier
great.
this season.
Earlier this season, you mean when he was putting up 49 points against Seattle?
Well, 7
You mean
of
when
those.
the offense was leading the league in air yards?
7 of those came from his pick 6, but continue.
No, he put up 49 points offensively.
Okay.
I'm not talking about what Seattle did. Okay, and every quarterback throws a pick 6. So the fact that that's your only argument.
No, there's a couple.
The
games.
Lions led the league in air yards for the first 5-6 games of the season. Air yards. You know what that comes from? A quarterback throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The year prior, when Goff got here, the team was in complete disarray. And I'll tell you this,
Which is
Goff
true.
wasn't great, but you saw what happened when Blau and Boyle got in. That team was dreadful.
it was even worse.
They couldn't move the ball without Jared Goff. And that's what made me respect Goff even more. Because sometimes it's not your presence, it's your absence. And when he was out, you saw how flawed that offense was. When he was in, at least it was a functioning item. And then you see the second year. Now, all of a sudden, when they fire the OC midway through his first year, he starts trending up. Second year, still trending up. End of the season, still trending up. If he was trending down, this would be a completely different conversation.
Yeah, it's like compared to dating a partner. And he or she, they're all right. Looks all right. Personality all right. Everything kind of checks all those boxes. And then imagine you go to you break up with that person and you go to somebody else who isn't on the same level as that person, but that person's middle of the pack, and the new person is damn near at the bottom. You're gonna look at the person who's middle of the pack and say, "Damn, that person's got something," but you forget that there's actually a person who's better than that person who checks even more boxes and has a better personality and is hotter and all this stuff. That's kind of the thing with Goff, like to Blau and Boyle. Of course they're not going to look good. Goff is better than those guys. But are those guys better than Goff? Like,
Of course
could
there
you
is. I'm not
upgrade?
saying Goff is the best quarterback ever. Yes, you can upgrade over Goff, but who is that?
And watch Goff's play, too, when Ben Johnson got... And I'm not saying it's all Ben, but you saw at the end of the season, Goff played well. Ben got the passing game coordinator this season. Ben's first year as an OC, he's played exceptional. Do you ever think what Jared would look like without Ben? Like, because we saw what Jared looked like the 2
he
years
got to
before
a Super
Ben.
Bowl without Ben, didn't he?
Well, he got to it.
Oh, all right.
Didn't
we don't
necess-
want quarterbacks that can get to a Super Bowl.
Well, he got there.
No,
I don't
no.
know if he was the number one deciding factor in that, but he did get there, to your point. And now it sounds like I'm hating against Goff, but I'm not. But the reality is, I'm not blind by the light. I know Goff. I respect Goff, but trust me, when that contract ends and you see that contract and you're looking at it and he's asking for $40 to $45 million, I'm crumbling up that thing. I'm throwing it right in the trash. We're moving on. And the reason why, you have to at least be prepared for that. I don't want to just lead into the light and say, all right, Goff, we're cool with you until I see the $45 million, and then I got to figure it out. You got to think about the future at some point, Stick. And that's what good GMs do. You think about the future. And I think Brad, we'll see what they do with that 6th pick, but he proved yesterday, he was non-committal.
I just wonder, at what point do hater-ass people like Easy and people that hate Goff, accept that he's a good quarterback? At what point? What does the guy have to do?
He's good.
I know. What does he have to do to, cement himself as you're all right, that's the guy? What other box does he need to check? A playoff win? If he gets a playoff win in Detroit?
The playoff wins, they're important. I think just overall, kind of mimicking what he did, and I'm not asking for the second half. The second half, he was perfect. But you need more consistency. I want Goff, especially that salary. I don't know where it goes. If he could take a discount, I don't mind Goff. But let's be honest, he shouldn't take a discount because Daniel Jones is about to get $45 million. So if Goff's smart, go get your bag. It just won't be in Detroit.